Hello, and thank you for joining us for our very first webinar of our Spring 2026 series, even though it is not quite spring yet, getting closer every day. This is Engage Readers with Pop Culture and Hot Topics using collection analysis. So I hope that is what you were looking forward to hearing about today. My name is Susanna Gilbert. I'm going to talk a little bit about these initiatives and what they are before we dive into the majority of our content for today. But to start, I am going to ask you to hop in the chat quickly and tell me what is popular right now at your library. What is the pop culture or hot topic that you are thinking about the most as you share books with your community? So please throw those in there. We'll come back to them later. All right, so collection analysis initiatives. What are they? These initiatives from the state libraries of Ohio and Missouri bring ongoing professional development to library staff, public libraries, school libraries, academic libraries. Wherever you're working with children's and young adult titles, we're providing these tools to help affirm that those titles in your displays, your recommended reading lists, your collections, large or small, are meeting the community needs that you would like them to meet. As I said, my name is Susanna Gilbert. I'm a project coordinator with Teaching Books, which basically just means that I get to run these webinars, which is a delight. I get to answer all of your great questions when you email me, and I get to talk about collections all day, which is one of my very favorite things to do. I am going to pass it off now to Erin Kelsey from the Ohio State Library, State Library of Ohio. Haven't done that in a while.
Hello. Because of our big university here, that wording order matters.
Six in the
Uh,
ear, yeah.
yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Kelsey, and I'm a library consultant at the State Library of Ohio, and I help to manage access to the Ohio Collections Analysis Initiative and get to do these fun webinars with Susanna and Katie. We've been working with Teaching Books since 2022 when we launched, and our professional development has grown over the years to just be like how to use the site to how to use it for fun stuff like this as well. So excited to kick off the year with this fun topic.
Thank you. So as I said, part of this initiative is that you get to email me with all of your interesting questions or your very boring questions, whichever kind of questions you have. I love them all. My contact information is on this slide. You'll see it again later, but Erin's contact information is also on that slide. So please feel free to reach out to her as well, or to both of us together if you want double chance of getting your question answered quickly. And then in Missouri, we work with the wonderful Katie Dunn.
Thank you. So similar to Erin, I'm the youth services consultant here at the Missouri State Library, and part of what I do is working with Teaching Books and trying to get the word out about the tools that you have available to you with Teaching Books and the Collection Analysis Initiative. We've had Teaching Books here in Missouri for a number of years, and it's available to everyone in Missouri. So we do hope that you take advantage of the resources there and learn a little bit more about how you can use this tool for your collection and helping you put together displays and all the things that Susanna is going to talk about today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. And everything that I said about contacting us with questions applies to this slide as well. Please reach out to Katie and I with anything that comes up. All right, so here is our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit about the basics of analyzing collections. We're going to dive in on creating lists for popular topics, explore our analysis reports of those lists, finding and evaluating additional titles. We're going to answer the question, what else can you do with these lists? And then, as I mentioned, we will have some time for reflections and Q&A. As always, our goal today is that you leave feeling equipped to use these tools at your library and incorporate them into your existing workflows around collections like this. So why these tools? They are effective and simple for examining collections of all sizes from 5 books to 500 to 5,000. You get documentation of collection data as well as the resources that come along with the books. You get resources to evaluate, promote, and bring books to life, and confidence through all of those pieces together that the titles are meeting the community needs you would like them to. And support and training are available. So we're not just throwing you out there to do this yourself. You have access to a lot of different ways to get support in this work. So what does this look like? You would start with a small set of titles from a collection, a display. We're going to today be talking mostly about kind of displays and recommended reading lists, things like that. But it could be anything. It could be your new books, your end caps, your pile of books you have in your office waiting to be recatalogued. Whatever it is you're working with, you can select that set of titles. And then you're going to import them into teaching books. You can scan them with a barcode scanner and the ISBN. You can do the same thing with your phone. I've got some photos there to illustrate. You can also copy paste information in. You can use a CSV file. You can search by book title. We'll get into all of these a little bit more in a little bit here. So more to come. And then immediately you get a report with a whole bunch of information in it like this. So how many genres do you see and which genres are those? What are the cultural experiences that are represented here? What's the balance of fiction or nonfiction? How many of these books qualify as diverse books by our categories? How many are graphic novels? How many have won awards? All the way down to, what is the page count and word count average for this particular set of titles? And we'll dive a little bit more into all of that as well. But here's a little preview of why you might want to create a list on teaching books and look at the analysis report. All right, so we'll come back to this later. But right now we're going to hop over to teaching books, which is where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. And you'll notice that this is teaching books for libraries and that it says Ohio Collection Analysis Initiative at the top. So 2 things to note here. If you are in a Missouri school, don't worry. Everything that I tell you today is going to be the same, but you might be looking at our schools platform. So you'll see it's linked here. If you're on schools, libraries is linked in the same place. You might be more familiar with our red-orange interface here. Again, it's all of the same content. It's just arranged a little bit differently. So our library platform is arranged with the needs of a public library patron or staff member in mind, and schools is arranged with teachers, school librarians, and K-12 students in mind. So it's all there, and most importantly, everything related to the Collection Analysis Initiative is the same on both platforms. So everything I'm walking through today will be the same. All right, but we don't want this to say Ohio Collection Analysis Initiative. We want it to say welcome and my first name, because to do all of this work, you do need to be logged in as a professional if you're on libraries or an educator if you're on schools. So we'll go to the toggle menu, and there's gonna be a little link to log in. And then I will put in my email address so I can trick the site into thinking that I am in Ohio. I am not. I am in Wisconsin. Spoiler alert. And here we are on our initiative homepage. So once you are registered for the Collection Analysis Initiative, whether that is in Missouri or in Ohio, when you log into Teaching Books with your email address that you registered with, instead of seeing our traditional homepage, you will see this initiative landing page. So the intention of this is just to give you all of the materials that you get by registering for the initiative in one place so that you can easily find all of this information. Gives you kind of a central hub with all of this. It's going to tell you a little bit about the initiative and the tools. It's going to give you a button where you can just dive in and start creating a list if you would like. But also, if you want some support materials as you're working with all of this, you have access to a handbook that is going to walk through this process step by step, give you lots of information about how everything I'm going to be showing you today works. And it's going to take a minute to load because, of course, it will. There we go. So again, here's all of the steps that we'll walk through. If you want to have this, open in another tab while you follow along when you're working on this later, that's a great option for you there. We also have our quick start guide, which is a much more compressed version of some of the same content. We have an FAQ that's always being updated as you ask me more questions. More questions get added and their answers. So that is a good document to come back to if you haven't looked at it in a while. And then a sample list analysis report if you're interested in looking at that. We have a couple of options here. We could just dive in and start creating a list. Or we can go to our custom reading lists page, which is going to appear linked on the left here, or back in that toggle menu. And we'll go to your reading lists. And here we are. We've got a few different things here. You might see, if you're in Missouri, you might see some lists here that are specific to your school or public library. If they've made the decision to have those available to you here. Either way, you'll see your great state lists, and then you'll see any lists that you've already created. I have a lot of them because I do this every day, but you might not have any yet, and that's great. You're just getting started. Super exciting. And of course, there's going to be a link to go back to that homepage if you want to head back there. But we're just going to dive in and create a new list here. So, what kind of lists are we thinking about today? Of course, we're always just kind of looking at this big picture and how do you use them in general. But today we're most specifically going to be talking about how to use these tools to easily review, document, and expand the selection of timely titles that you're featuring in displays, recommended reading lists, programs, whatever that looks like for your library. But those things that come up and you say, oh yeah, I need to make a display for this quick because this is the only thing anybody's talking about. Or these are the books that everybody's asking me for, so I need to have a really deep recommended reading list that my desk staff can pull from when the 17th kid comes in saying, I want a book like whatever it is. So we're going to be talking about that today. With all of those kind of things, displays, recommended reading lists, programs, you're always kind of desperately trying to keep up with whatever that newest thing is. But what we're going to talk about today is how you can use these tools to make sure that those targeted lists or displays are also balanced, they're diverse, they're meeting whatever goals you have for the titles you share with your readers. So can you do both at once? Whatever the thing of the moment is, while still making sure that your list is a nice balance of older and more recent titles, or a nice range of genres, depending on what kind of list you're putting together and whether that's a priority. All right, so we're going to create a list. I said we would come back to all of the different ways that you can do that, and that is what we are going to do. So the first thing you need to do here is put in a collection name. You can't add any titles until you've named your collection and saved. So this is going to be our Winter Olympics 2026 list, because I have been watching US women's hockey all week, and we are going to put together some books for this. Even though we're getting close to the end of the Olympics here, we don't have too much time left, but can still put together a display. All right, so there's no items in our collection, but now we have all of our options available to add them. The sort of straight off the bat simple way to do this is by searching our quick add by book title and just searching a book title. So we could put in curling, and if the book that popped up at the top was not the one that we wanted, we could add the author's name and it would narrow further. And then you'll see we've got our little add to. Hit that, it turns green. You save because you always want to save after you add anything. And now we have a book. There we go. We're well on our way to a Winter Olympics list. You can also add titles by ISBN with that quick add by book title box. There are a few different ways to do this. If you are using a computer that is attached to a barcode scanner, you can just click into this box and scan the ISBN on a book, and it'll pop up right there. If you are not and you would like to use a camera to do the same thing, you're going to click on this ISBN search icon. It's not going to load because I'm on Zoom right now, but if I hit allow, it might ask you to block or allow if you haven't used your camera with the site before. But then this will load eventually, and I would be able to hold up a book and make sure that it's the right distance away and in good lighting and all of those annoying things. But it really does work. Great option if you don't have a scanner and you want to use your phone, something like that. But we will just dump an ISBN in there, and there we have Dino Hockey by Lisa Wheeler, and we will add that as well and save. So there we go. Those are kind of our one at a time options. If you're creating a smaller list, that might be where you want to start. Just add them in there if you've got all the books in a pile on your desk anyway. But we do also have our bulk add options. So you can paste a list of titles and authors, and there's going to be some information at the top here. These bullets are telling you how all of that information needs to be formatted so that our site can read it correctly and find the books that you're looking for. You can do the same thing with a list of ISBNs. Or you can upload a CSV file. So this is sometimes a useful option if you're working with a much larger chunk of your collection. You can add up to 10,000 titles into a single list on teaching books. I do not recommend starting with that because it can get a little intimidating if it's your first time creating a list and you dive right in with your spreadsheet full of 8,000 titles. But that is an option if that's what you're hoping to accomplish. Again, there's some information here about how that needs to be formatted. And if you are having any issues at all with that, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to help, whether that is by email or phone, or you want to set up a time for me to look at your spreadsheets on Zoom. We can do that too. I'm also happy to talk to you about how to get the information that you need out of different systems that you might be using with your collection. So options there as well. You know where to find me. All right, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to throw some ISBNs in here because that's always a nice, simple way to get a list for us to look at. I'm going to copy paste these in here. We're going to scroll through quickly, make sure there's no spaces between the ISBNs. There's nothing weird in there. And then we'll import 15 out of 15 matches. It's almost like I tested this beforehand. And then we'll save because now we have 17 titles on our list. So we could do quite a lot here. We can edit this list and we can always come back and do these things later as well. You can remove titles, got a little X on the far left here. We could add notes about the different titles that would appear both on this view and on this view. So here is our list. We've got our 17 titles, all about winter sports. We can, well, no, spoilers. We're going to talk about what else you can do with this list later. Right now, we're just talking about how to get to your analysis report. There are two ways to do that. The first is you'll see a little triangle icon here that says list analysis report. And this is going to appear on every list on teaching books. So lists you've created, those state lists that we saw on the Your Reading List page earlier, my amazing colleagues in our content department create lists for things like every book that's ever won the Coretta Scott King Award, or here's a school library journal recommended reading list on starting school for the first time, all sorts of things like that. And all of those are going to have that list analysis report available to view. But for what we're doing today, we do not want to click on that. We want to go over to our list of options on the left here. And we want to save this list analysis report so that it lives on your account independent of this list itself, which gives us some more options for things we can do with it. So we'll save that. We're going to import it to a new report. And here we go. All our information. You can download all of this in a spreadsheet. You can print this out if you want to share it with a friend, or more likely, your administration colleagues you're working with on this who might be interested in this information. But let's take a look at what we have. So your at a glance is going to be, of course, at a glance, some of the information that we have here. There are 7 different genres, 0 cultural experiences, 10 fiction books, 7 nonfiction. We've got 0 diverse books, 0 graphic novels, 3 award winners, and a publication year median of 2009, which was a few Olympics ago now. So that's a little older than we would like it to be. Page count average, word count average. This is telling me that this is skewing very heavily picture book. But interestingly, our reading levels are quite broad. So that's something we can think about if we would like to. And then we get into that same information laid out in charts and graphs. So again, fiction versus nonfiction, some of those reading level lexile details, recency, year published. So we can see here that probably the problem is that we have not don't have anything on this list that's newer than 2019. And that was a little bit ago. So this is skewing older. We can see what some of these books are. So we could see what do we have from 1979? Cross Country Cat, great book. My sister really liked that one growing up, which tells you how old it is. And then we can keep going here. So we know a little bit about what we might want to think about in terms of publication year. We've got our genre details. Adventure, humor, mystery. Okay, yeah, we've got 15 sports books. We like to see that. That's confirming that we've got some of what we're looking for here. But we've got an interesting mix of other things as well. And then usually here we would see our cultural experiences graph, but we do not have anything on that because we do not have any cultural experiences represented in this particular list. We've got our curricular area details. Again, physical education, ELA. It's about what I would expect to see there. And then we have what's not included. So here's where all of our cultural experiences are. And I will admit that I made this list very intentionally so we could look at what that looks like. The Winter Olympics are historically not terribly diverse, but they're getting better every time. And so I think we can do a little bit better than this with this particular list. See if it reflects what we're seeing at these current Olympics and not some of our older ones here. And then we have what our genres that are not included. And at this point in the report, I always stop and remind you that these are not checklists, right? These are not us saying, for this to be a good book list or a good display, you have to have every single one of these cultural experiences, every single one of these genres. For one thing, that's just not going to work for every list. Every list is going to have a different goal, and you are the person who knows what that goal is. So the information in here is never meant to be judgmental in any way, I guess. It's not telling you, like, this is what you have to have. It's giving you opportunities to see what you notice, to see whether this meets the goal that you were intending to meet. Are there things in here that are surprising to you, or that that really jump out at you and make you go, oh wait, I thought we had some books on this list that were older than 2019 or newer than 2019, excuse me. I thought I had a few more books in here that would fill this particular need, whatever that looks like for you. All right. But yeah, it's not going to be realistic to get all of them in here. We're not going to be able to find books that fall into all of these categories. We're certainly not going to be able to find, winter sports related horror. I don't think that we'll be able to, get all of our genres checked off either. But that's not going to be the goal. All right. So let's talk about some ways that you can find titles if you have identified gaps. So finding and evaluating additional titles is our next step. But now you have all of this documentation, right? And that can be useful for a variety of things. But we're going to hop over to the main teaching books page. And you could start, sorry, we're gonna hop back here and I'm gonna scroll really fast. There we go. Okay. So you could start with these things that are not included. If there's some things here that jump out at you and you think, oh, I'm really interested in making sure we have some, Paralympic books about Olympians with disabilities to flesh out this display. You could dive in from here. You can click on this link, you'll get the full collection, and then you can filter down from there. But because we're talking about such specific topics today, we're actually going to start just with our search tool. So we've got our search bar here, and we could search simply for Olympics. We can see we've got some books about Olympics or with Olympics in the title on the left. We've got some lists that are related to the Olympics. So we could open that up and see what we've got here. We do not have any awards or series, but we do have our featured sports collection, and we do have Olympics as a subject. So these are all great starting points to find books to fill those gaps. And we're going to start today by looking at Olympics as a subject. So Olympics straight up, we've got 65 books, and that's too many books to look at. So we're going to do some filtering. We could look at grade level, but we know we've got a pretty wide range of grade levels in the list we're already creating. So I'm going to just say that that's not something we're worried about for this particular list. We could look at curricular area. We could look at genre. But what I want to focus on for this is we know we don't have any cultural experiences represented there. So we can go in and we could pick a specific one, but we could also just pick one that any cultural experience. So this falls into any of the categories that we use on teaching books to classify titles that way. And that's going to get us down to 25. We could say we want award winners, recent award winners, books that have won a specific award. We could go in and say we want, more books from the past 3 years. Looks like we don't have a ton from the last 3 years there. So what we could do instead is instead of filtering, we can sort. And instead of our default, we can go to year published. And this is just going to give us the newer things at the top. So nice option. All right. And of course, we do know that we have some Summer Olympic sports represented here. So we can decide if we want to be really specific, filter those out, which we would have to do just by looking at the books. So we don't have a filter for winter sports, unfortunately. I would love it if we did. But we can go in and we can skim through these and we can say, okay, yes, this is a great one to add. So this is going to be titles to add Olympics. And we'll throw that one on here. We could edit or view our titles to add list, or we can keep scrolling a little bit here and see if there are other things that we want to add. Got some great Paralympic titles there. Apologize that it's popping me up to the top here. It actually should not be doing that. But that's a problem for fixing later. I apologize. We can also go in and add multiple titles to a list. So we could scroll down here and we could say, we know we want some of these, and we'll add them to titles to add. That'll pop that on here. And we could edit or view, or we can keep looking for other ways to add titles. So I mentioned another option is our sports collection. So you can also go to Browse and then see all collections and find our sports books by genre and do some filtering here. So again, that might look like we want some cultural experience focus. It might look like we want some more recent books. And again, we can go in and say, all right, do we want to pick our sports very specifically? Do we want to just kind of go through and find some cool options here? But we have all of these available to us. So I'm going to grab this one for sure. And we can just kind of keep doing this forever, right? We could go back to our Olympics search and we can find our list results and we could look at what's on this SLJ. Are there any titles that we want to add here that we know we want to pull out? We've got all sorts of options. There's a wonderful picture book we can add. Basically, you can just kind of keep on going, keep on searching. There's a lot of different ways to find titles. Back on that browse page, we can go back to see all collections, and these are all of those filters laid out. So tons of different search points that you can start with, depending on what it is that you're looking for exactly.
Susanna, I want to jump in
Yeah.
really quick just because people probably saw it, but in case they missed it, that the feature that it shows you if it's already been added to the list is really helpful because if you're going like on deep dives and finding all these different ways to add titles, it's really helpful for the system to know that, oh, you've already added this one. So it's
Yeah,
not going to duplicate all that work for you. So kind of nice.
absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
So, we can keep going forever here. We can do specific sports by subject. We can find again some of our more recent titles. Decide what we might want here. And again, you can just kind of keep going there. I will not make you sit here and watch me search every Olympic sport, but that would be an option if that's what you like to do. But what are we going to do with these titles? So we're going to go back to our reading lists here. And scroll down. We can see we've got our Winter Olympics list we started with, and we've got our titles to add. So we can take this one. If we would like to, we could go in and learn more about these titles. So we could open up the title record for a book and see what kind of resources we have available that can help us learn more. I apologize that everything is loading really slowly today. I do think that this is an issue with my Wi-Fi, unfortunately. But these things happen. We're going to try that one more time. Of course. All right. Well, if this would load, you would see there's a whole lot of resources we have available for any particular title. There we go. That include things like our Meet the Author recordings, which are interviews with authors where they talk about their inspiration or their process or how a book came to be. We have all sorts of other book guides, activities, and lessons. So if you're planning for programs and you're looking for resources there, we have discussion questions, activities, all sorts of things that you can dive into and see if they might be helpful to you. But that is a topic for another day. The one other thing I want to highlight here is our book resumes. So you'll see those linked at the top here. And this is going to have a whole bunch of information about a title. So age band, grade bands, age ranges pulled out from a variety of sources. All of those tags that we've been looking at, different classifications, excuse me. Subject headings from Library of Congress and BISAC. We've got full text professional reviews. So we pull from 8 different review sources, and you'll see the full review from the Cooperative Children's Book Center, from Publishers Weekly, from School Library Journal, all of the ones, Hornbook, Book List, everybody you would expect. You'll see the whole review there, which is a great resource if you're thinking about purchasing rather than just finding books that you might be pulling from your shelves to add to a display. You'll also see if a book was selected for a state or provincial recommended reading list. You'll see some information from the author, again, pulled from those Meet the Author recordings if we have them, book awards and distinctions, just some great information to have on hand.
I just wanted to jump in and say, I think the resources here, my brain jumps to programming. Have a public library background, so using this to enhance a program that you're doing for the Olympics, and you've got a list to pass out, and then there's all these great resources you can use to get kids to further engage with the material. So a lot of good
Absolutely.
stuff in there.
Thank you. All right. So if we've kind of looked through these, we've decided they're all ones that we want to add to our list. So whether this, again, is titles we're pulling for a display or adding to a recommended reading list, we know we have 11 here that we can add. We could view the list analysis report for these titles, but what we're going to do is save it again. Except this time, when we go to select where we're importing it, instead of creating a new report, we're going to pick that list that we started with. So our Winter Olympics 2026, we'll import. And this is why we saved it earlier, because now we can create our version 2. So this is those first 17 titles plus the 11 that we found, and we can see what changes happened. What impact did we make here? So we've got more genres. We've got 6 cultural experiences where we didn't have any before. We've got a 50-50 fiction, nonfiction blend, which is not a blend I'm mad about for a list like this. This is one where I'd really want that mix of fiction and nonfiction to appeal to different audiences who might be interested in the topic. We've got 9 diverse books. We've got a graphic novel added in. Got 7 award winners. Our publication year median only went up by a year, but every little bit helps. And we can see here still kind of similar page count, word count averages. So we know this is still going to appeal to the same audiences that our original list did. And we can go in and see what we've added here. So we do have some books from newer than 2019. We didn't have to take out our older books. We can keep those. They're great books. We want to continue to share them with our community, but we can make sure that we have some newer stuff too that's maybe a little bit more reflective of our current moment. Here are our cultural experience details. We have some now. That's very exciting. And you'll also see here that we have our classification definitions linked. So if you're wondering why a book falls into a particular category or why it doesn't, that can be a great place to look. You can click on those, read a little bit about how our staff, our content team classifies all of our books into these categories. So you can find out a little bit about how they do that. If you're interested, if you have more questions about that, please do reach out. I'm happy to talk about that at any point. All right, so there we go. We've talked about how to identify some of those places where we might want to make changes using our collection analysis report information. We've talked about a bunch of different ways that we can find those titles. I'm very quickly going to pick a different topic from the chat here. Yeah, there's a reason I used K-pop Demon Hunters in addition to the Olympics in the description of this. It's because I know it's still been quite popular. And I'm going to just scroll back up here a little bit and talk about that. Because I think one of the super cool things with K-pop Demon Hunters, right, is you can think about creating lists focused around K-pop. So you can search for K-pop and find some great titles that fall into that category. You can see how you want to spell it. You can find the subject, you can find the books, and that's an option. But if you've got a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters fans, they may be more interested in the demon hunting part than the K-pop part. And then you can go into browse and think about maybe we want to, oh boy, there we go. Maybe we want to start with our collections here, and maybe we want to go down to genre, and we want to think about science fiction and fantasy. And we want to look at some things that are really appealing to that kind of third, fourth grade audience and are focused on global Asian backgrounds. So maybe we can find some really interesting fantasy based around Asian mythology that might appeal to fans of the movie. We can dive in here and see When You Trap a Tiger, and what else do we got here? Some more, Hanzu in the Realm of Darkness. All sorts of things that might do really well on a display or a list, if these are the things that you're thinking about. So again, additional ways to use those filters and search tools to really narrow in on what it is that you're hoping to find. All right. Before we go, I do want to touch very quickly on, you've created these lists with the intention of using them for your analysis, right? You started with that. But you can also use them for a variety of other things. So if we had our Winter Olympics list, we could add those 11 titles into this list, have our big Winter Olympics list. And then what else can you do with that? You already have it. It's a great tool. It can be shared really easily. So you can pull up our share arrow here, and there's going to be a direct link. This can be sent to anyone. Sign-in is not required. So if you put this in a newsletter or something like that, your patrons will be able to get in and see all of those books. And so it could be kind of outside of the library readers advisory tool as well there. You can put it on a bookmark. So you could print out some QR code bookmarks that will link directly to this list. Hand those out at a program, have them at the desk, have them with your Olympics display as here's more books that might not be in the library right now, but are also on this topic. Can share it digitally, email, calendar. You can throw it on there for 2030 Winter Olympics and see if you want to use it again, or if you want to hopefully make some changes, add some cool new stuff. You can share it on social media if you're working with your library or school social media pages. But I think one of the other things that I think is really great is you have the opportunity to use this as a tool for your staff as well. So I worked in public libraries before I came to teaching books, and one of the things that I always think about with these lists is I was coming up with display ideas. I was pulling a ton of books, but then some of my colleagues would be on the desk and they'd need to refill. Everything would walk out the door and you need some stuff to throw on there. And some of them were more comfortable than others with finding additional books on a topic, right? And so you've got this list and you can share this with your staff and say, here's where you start if you're looking for more books. Here's a place to find some of these if you need to add. So that's an option as well. They can be embedded directly on your website. We've got our code here. There's source code you can copy, and then it'll appear as this nice little module here with all of those books included. So endless options for what you can do with your lists. Since you have them, you've created them, you might as well do all of the fun things with them. All right, back to our slides for just a second here. This is intended to be a process that can be really easily integrated into what you're already doing. So we know you're creating displays, we know you're creating recommended reading lists, you're thinking about what books to purchase, all of those great things. And so this is hopefully something that you can come back to in that process again and again, whether that is reevaluating your Winter Olympics list in 2030 or coming to this next month when you're creating different lists, whatever that looks like for you. It is intended to be this sort of iterative process that you come back to. So this is just another way to look at those steps and reflect on them. Straight to you from one of my coworkers who loves flowcharts. And then I also want to highlight that we do have 3 more webinars coming up in our spring series. So you can join us on March 17th, Tuesday, March 17th, same time as today. And we're going to talk about celebrating Women's History Month. But we're kind of use that as like a case study for how to look at various heritage months, month-long acknowledgements kind of things using these tools. April 21st, we will be talking about school and public library collaboration. So how can you use this to be a starting point of conversations between your public library, your school district? And then in May, we will talk about building winning collections, which is just me talking about cool award resources and how to build great lists related to those. So lots of exciting things coming up this spring. I hope you will join us for all of them, or at least some of them. But again, the recording will always be available to you if you do register for the webinar. So more information about all of those will be coming to you in your email when they come up. But you can also access more information on those through links that I will put in the chat in just a second. All right. Ohio, again, please reach out with any questions that you have, whether it's about the webinar content from today or about the tools in general. We love to hear from you, whether it's with a question about access or the tools or spreadsheets, or thoughts that you're having about how you're going to use this, things you're excited about, anything like that. We also love to hear. Same thing in Missouri. You can reach out to Katie and I. I don't think that I highlighted this at the time, but the help email address is also available on that initiative landing page for you. So you can log into Teaching Books and find that there as well if you've got a question that you wanna get hold of me that way. All right, thank you so much for joining us today and thinking about all of these fun, popular topics and how you can use them to make cool lists and displays. So thanks again.